Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, joined by my friend Bob Stewart. Bob, how are you today?
I'm getting in the habit.
Ooh.
I'm getting in the habit.
In the habit of what, Bob?
I don't know.
Careful. Bob, you mentioned that word, and of course I know why you mentioned that word. It's what we're going to talk about today. I just want to ask you right off the top, do you have any bad habits? Do you have any good habits in your life right now?
I think I probably have both of those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I want to tell the audience out there is there's really no difference between a good habit or a bad habit except how you judge them, or maybe how society judges you for them. A habit is a habit is a habit, right? So whether it's I smoke, right, or I drink too much and that's the habit, it's a habit. It's society or yourself has put the judgment on it, Bob, which is making it good or bad. So let me just ask, what are a few habits that Bob Stewart has?
We have a bedtime habit of brushing the kids' teeth, and they've got, getting their vitamins and brushing their teeth. And
when he said brushing the kids' teeth, Dave, did you get the visual of like him and his wife holding the kids' heads and brushing their
so we've got one kid that brushes his own teeth. He's fine. He's good. But the 4-year-old, I literally have to hold his head. He screams. He's still to this day. He kicks. Every once in a while, I will pull up pictures on my phone of, I actually
people with no teeth.
I Google meth mouth. And I show him pictures of what meth mouth looks like so that he doesn't want his teeth to look like that. We tell him, I tell stories about sugar bugs that will eat his teeth. And So for that one, Chad, the habit, this kid is going to get in the habit of good dental hygiene, but we're beating it into him.
All right. It's going to get there, right? Some of the habits.
So we've got that kind of a habit. I've got a little bit of a workout habit.
Yep.
I've got some habits around like how I eat throughout the day and kind of my snacks and, there's a few other habits, but
good. All right. And folks, I believe we are truly creatures of habit. I take that as a compliment. People will say, oh, you're such a creature of habit. Yes, I am. Right? Habits make me not have to make decisions. Habits have already made the decisions for me. Now, Bob, why are we talking so much about habits? I mean, it's probably the most written about topic that's out there, and we'll even talk to you about a few of the books that cover the topic. But Bob, why are we talking about habits already?
So we're gonna do a series. We believe, and really this comes from Ben. We believe that there are certain areas of your life where you need habits, or you should have habits, or maybe you'd be more efficient or effective if you had habits.
Okay, so we've got a series coming. Right, in the works. This is not the lead episode. We're working on all the episodes for you, and then we'll drop it. But we want to tease you a little bit about an area of habits series that's coming soon. Okay, Bob, you love to do this. You love to be precise about it. And what's the definition of a habit?
Words matter, Chad. Words matter. So we've got the dictionary definition. It's an acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it has become almost involuntary.
Give me your take on the dictionary definition of habit, Bob.
I think that Webster's a smart dude.
Can you imagine there's just this one guy saying, I think this word means this,
here's
right?
what this one should be. Daniel Webster, right? He was like let's break it down, right? It's an acquired behavior pattern. So it's something we can gain.
Yep.
Right? We don't start with habits.
Correct.
So I think that acquired component is important, right? It's something we can gain.
Okay.
Regularly followed.
Yep.
So it's something we do consistently. And look, I think there's probably habits we have like checking our net worth every month. It doesn't have to be something we do every day. Habits aren't necessarily a daily thing, but they are regularly followed, which means they follow some kind of a predetermined time frame.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Until they have become almost involuntary, meaning they become second nature. We do them often enough at whatever that frequency is that when that time comes, we're like ready to do that habit.
Yeah, a definition I had heard is something is a habit, and we'll get to how long does it take to create a habit, but something's a habit when it feels strange not doing it. Right? Like if I couldn't work out, that would feel strange because that's a habit. If on a certain day of the week, Wednesdays, we aren't meeting, it feels weird because that's a habit that every Wednesday we're getting together to record episodes and do our podcast stuff. Okay. So Bob, let's help our audience build some habits because we're going to give them these areas of habits in this series that's coming up.
Some of those areas, should we
don't tell them the areas yet. They'll figure that out. We want them to come back, right?
Okay.
But let's help them create some habits. So step 1 to creating a habit is
know why. Like, why are you creating this habit, I think?
Probably a really good place to start.
What's the point, right? Because we know, I think if you've ever tried, I think people probably know this more trying to break a habit, I think.
Yes.
It gets hard, right? Like to break a habit, it's probably just as hard as creating a habit.
Can I jump in right there?
Sure.
Okay, you said at the beginning of this episode, words matter.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to stop breaking habits.
Okay.
I want them to realize what they're doing. They're not breaking a habit.
Creating a new habit?
They're creating a new habit.
That's true, yeah.
Right? And if we stop thinking about it breaking a habit, it's so hard to break a habit. It's so hard to quit smoking. It's so hard to whatever that is. Let's start creating a new habit instead, because that'll take some of that stress off it.
And so knowing why we want to create a new habit or break a habit, it's going to be tough.
Yes.
Chad, it's going to be hard, right? So knowing why we're doing it is probably important. We don't just, I think it's it should be rare, although bad habits maybe come on a little bit easier, like watching Netflix. I don't think anybody ever sat down and was like, why am I about to start a Netflix habit, right? Like,
yeah, but we all have that one thanks to COVID, right?
Sure,
Everyone's got
maybe
the Netflix.
I'm bored. Like, why am I going to have this Netflix habit? Well, I'm bored. And I don't have anything better to do with my time.
Right, so that's a great example, Bob. Instead of saying I'm going to quit watching Netflix, okay, go start a habit of reading, or go start a habit of game night with the family, or go start a habit of going for a walk. That'll take you away from saying, oh, I'm missing my Netflix. I'm missing my Netflix. No, focus on the new habit. And like you said, step 1 is know why you're even doing it so that you can push through.
And I think most of us, like, we know why, but really having a good understanding of why. Right?
Okay.
Like I had started a health habit recently, and my why was because we're going to be doing health insurance or life insurance. And I had to get all these tests for the life insurance. And I'm like, I got to be in better shape, right? So that when that life insurance lady comes over to like take my blood and stuff, like my rates are a little bit lower. And that drove my behavior for a while. Like I wanted lower life insurance rates.
Okay. And you have 2 young boys in your life. Maybe they were a reason for knowing why or whatever that habit might be. Or those people out there that are working on their net worth. Maybe their habit is they're looking to get out of debt, right? They can remember that why. That's why they're giving up Starbucks and creating that new habit of making coffee at home, saving all that money because they're working towards it.
We have a friend, Jacqueline is her name, and she's starting this habit basically in the month of, I think she was doing it in the month of October. She's trying to break the habit of buying things online. And actually, it's funny, Chad, the way she framed it was she's trying to create a habit of buying locally.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, she's trying to create a habit of buying locally. And her why was because she makes mindless spending decisions when she's buying it online. And when she actually goes out locally to buy, she's a lot more thoughtful in where she spends her money. And it's the whole, she's got to get up and go out and do it. And when you're sitting there on your phone and you're like, I'm going to buy that thing, it's super easy. So she really created this why around why she wants to create that new habit of shopping locally. So
Good job,
not mindlessly spending money.
And she's not breaking a habit of buying things online. She's creating the new habit, Bob. So she's already a step ahead of having that success. Okay. So step 1, know why. Step 2 is?
Start small.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about this, Bob.
I think back when we, the beginning of COVID, Ben, he wanted to get in shape.
Yep.
You know, he knew that. And so, and you might dispute.
I'm not going to say anything. No judgment.
But even if you start running, right? We wouldn't have just been like, hey, we're going to start running and let's just go run for, let's go run 10 miles. Like we would have started small, right? We said, today I'm going to run. I mean, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm going to run 100 yards, Dave. I'm going to run that football field, right? And then tomorrow I'm going to run it down and back. And then the next day I'm going to, but starting small. We did push-ups and we would start and everybody, we had 15 guys and we might get to this later in the thing, but there was like 15 of us and all different levels. Ben's really strong. He's like strong as an ox, that guy. So he did
country
a lot more,
strong, as they say.
Yeah, he did a lot more push-ups than I could do, but I just started small, right? It was, in the beginning I was doing 20 push-ups a day and then it, just incrementally it got more, but I couldn't have started anywhere else, I guess. Right. But a lot of times I think we say, I'm going to do this habit and it's going to be this big thing. And I think, look, there's, you need motivation to start a habit.
Correct.
And we only have so much willpower.
Yes.
So if we can break these habits up into like smaller versions, it's more likely that we can find the willpower to be motivated enough to do the smaller thing.
Yes, absolutely, Bob. You know, a great example of that you shared with running. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me through Facebook is an easy way to do it. And you can also come into our group, facebook.com/group/win-make-give. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, I want to run a 5K, I want to run a 10K, I want to run a half marathon, Chad, help me. And my first suggestion is, okay, go run half a mile, right? Oh, I can do that. Okay, good. Go run a mile, right? Because you're not going to just all of a sudden start running the distance and say, well, it's going to take me a long time to get there. I'm going to be slow. No, go do it in small increments. Another one, Bob, is a lot of people say, I'm going to drink a gallon of water, right? We hear drink a lot of water. That's a big habit to take on. But having a glass of water with every meal is an easy habit to start and say, oh, breakfast, glass of water, lunch, glass of water, dinner, glass of water. Now, all of a sudden, you're just that much closer. Before you know it, you look up and you're like, you know what? I'm already drinking half a gallon. How much harder would it be to step it up? So you're right. Start small. You got to know why you're doing it. And then you got to start small as you're working towards these habits.
I think any of those, you know, any like even if it was, I want to track my net worth every month. Like the small start is do it once.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so it's not necessarily like, look, it's still the same amount of work I would do the next month, but sometimes it's just even committing to that first step or that small step.
And Bob, I don't care if for the first month they just track their assets. And then the second month, they track their liabilities and their assets.
Sure.
And then they start to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, now I'm at net worth because I broke it down into little pieces.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more fun, by the way, to just track your
assets.
Just
track your assets. You'll feel real good about it.
But I got this car. I know it's not paid for, but man, look at this asset.
There you go. All right. So next on it, Bob, I'm gonna give him this one, right? It's schedule it.
Of course you're gonna give him that. I
Sure.
don't know anything about that. But.
Calendaring stuff, right? If you don't have it there, you probably don't do it. So what can you go put on your calendar? Folks, go back a few episodes, listen to where Bob and I talked about how I help people create calendars, right? Maybe you've got a smartphone out there and you can have it pop up reminders through the day. Like,
if you don't have a smartphone, like my dad is probably the only person I know on the face of the earth that doesn't have a smartphone. I'm sure there's somebody listening here that doesn't have one, but like everybody's got a smartphone, don't they?
Even 8-year-olds have smartphones, right?
Yeah.
And forget the smartphone. Let's go old school. Put a Post-it note on the bathroom mirror that says, go work out. Or that says, walk your 10,000 steps a day, or put the bottles of water out on the counter.
It's funny. I today am in a habit of setting the alarm when I leave our house, but for the longest time when my wife and I started living together, I never set the alarm when I left the house. As a guy, first off, I've never really had an alarm in my house.
Sure.
Right. And my wife grew up with an alarm. She was raised by a single mom. So it was like alarm all the time. And it was, there was like all girls in their house. We didn't have alarms. So I've just never been used to it, So, but she does not like it if I leave the house unarmed.
Okay.
And so I literally still to this day, even though I'm in a habit, I have a Post-it on my door when I leave that says, set the alarm.
There you go.
So
it might not be on your calendar because you never know when you're going to leave. But there are ways you can quote unquote schedule it by putting reminders.
Kind of that signal, something to set your mind in motion to do that habit or remind you of that habit. And I think of, Ben, he uses little reminders on his phone to eat.
Yes.
Because he's like always running and going and he'll have a little reminder that'll come up that he needs to, get a protein bar or whatever. So I think it doesn't have to be just like on your calendar. It could be these little reminders that you can place around your world just to make sure that you're, especially in the beginning, right? Yeah. Before that thing becomes something that today I could take that Post-it note down. I mean, I'm sure if I did, my wife would be like, don't do that. You're going to start forgetting again. But I do really think it's become a habit now.
Okay. So Bob, let's keep going on this. What you just said was a great one, especially at the beginning to help ourselves push through would be this one. And that is?
No exceptions allowed.
None. No exceptions, Bob.
Yeah.
Right? Nita and I were working on a new habit of waking up at a certain time, and then we went on a cruise. Well, guess what? We got up at that time, even though we were on vacation on a cruise. Yeah. We were eating a certain way. We did it on a cruise.
I think wake up time is a good one. A lot of people that are in those habits of getting up at a certain time. I remember my grandfather was one of these people. He would still get up at 4 a.m. on Saturday.
Yes.
right? Like that was just his, and he still went to bed, by the way, on Friday night at that same routine.
Yes.
And
Grandpa and I would get along,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally.
Nita looks at me all the time and says, come on, it's Friday. Can't we stay up late? And I'm like, no, it's our habit. You know your body's going to start getting sleepy anyway. Let's go. So it doesn't matter what night of the week it is.
So like I'm half impressed by you, half scared of you. Like there's like partial psychopath in there somewhere. No.
Yes, there's definitely some of that.
I love you though, just like I love my grandpa, you know. But it's fascinating.
Yes, during the beginning, specifically when you're working on creating these habits, Bob, you can't allow exceptions because then you'll just justify all of them. And then what ends up happening is you mess yourself up. You fall off. You break the routine of the habit. So the next step, Bob, is they have to
look, get back on track fast.
Yes.
Like if you miss a day or you don't, you know, you forget to set the alarm one time on the way out of the house. Like don't do it 2 times in a row, right?
Right.
Like don't miss 2 days in a row, or don't miss 2 months in a row of doing your net worth, because again, especially as you're building that habit, it's going to be really easy to build a new habit of not doing that thing.
Yes. Because that was the habit you had previously.
That's
so your
right.
body's going to start to default back to that habit track that's already built into your system. Okay, so let's give a quick recap. We're not at the end, but let's keep you caught up here. Okay, know why you're creating your habit. Start small as you create your habit. Schedule it or give yourself reminders for the habit. No exceptions are allowed as you're creating a habit until it becomes one. And if you have a miss, you got to get right back on track as soon as possible. Bob, those are all great things. I think this next one is probably one of the ones that's really going to help you make a habit happen, and that is?
Tell other people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What happens, Bob, when you tell someone else that you are now waking up at a certain time, or you're going to work out every day, or you're drinking more water, or you're buying locally? What starts to happen?
What does Ben say? He says he says something like it's a lot easier to let ourselves down than it is to let somebody else down. For most of us anyway.
Correct.
Right? So it's this idea of making yourself accountable to somebody else.
Yeah. The more the merrier.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, we are about to start, meaning Nita and I, we are about to start a whole new health program around our house. I convinced her to do it with me because I knew that if I told her and did it with her, it would be that much easier. And then what did I do? I went on Facebook and I started posting about it, because now I know all those people out there are going to give me a hard time if they see me eating something I shouldn't be, or if they see me doing something, or if they're the ones I'm out to dinner with or something like that. Tell as many people as you can so they're cheering you on.
I recently, you guys know this, but I recently started a new habit.
Yes.
Ending an old bad habit. But
yes.
And
we're very proud of you, Bob.
Right? And,
very proud of you.
There's been times when I'm like, I'm gonna go back to I'm doing that habit, or you know, and then I do think like, no, God, I gotta face Chad. Like this guy, he's gonna give me such a hard time. I mean, there's that little bit of extra motivation, right? Is in this particular case, it's helped me a few times to maintain that better new habit.
Yeah, and you're right. It's the more people that know we're working on it, the more people that'll give us the hard time out of love, or the more people that are just watching us that we think, oh, someone's going to see me doing this and let me know. So that's telling others. Yet your next point that you wanted to give everybody kind of goes right in hand with this one, and that is
get a buddy.
Yeah.
You know, get some kind of an accountability partner. I think. There's been a few times in my life when I got really religious about the gym, and the very first time for me was I was in college, and my roommate was going to the NFL Combine. This guy was a monster and played football, and he was going to the NFL Combine, and he needed somebody to work out with him. Okay. And so I didn't have any business working out with this absolute giant.
Not working out with in the sense of lifting the same
I wasn't
as
lifting
him,
the weights
right?
he was lifting, but
Correct.
he needed somebody to be there to go with him, basically.
Correct.
And it kind of fell to me because we were roommates, that we had like 5 guys that were all roommates, and him and I had the same schedule. And so I said, okay, Lance, fine, I'll do it with you. And I actually built a habit out of it. And my last year at college, I spent a lot of time in the gym with him, and I didn't want to go most days. I like, this wasn't my thing. I don't know. I'm not a, meathead, lifting weights in the gym, flexing in the mirror kind of guy, right? Like, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's not my
Don't
style.
make me jump across this desk and start beating you.
I know. Like, I'm scared even saying this out loud. And my roommates are those guys. They're my best friends to this day. Tyson and Lance, they're twins. But so I would go with Lance. And it actually, like, I became accountable to him to go. And it helped me build a habit. And 3 months into it, like, I actually enjoyed going.
Sure.
Right. But I didn't want to do that in the beginning. But
now, you were doing that push-up challenge you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
You had not just one buddy. I think you said there were 15 of you, right? And you would send a video of doing it to each other every night.
And we've told this story before on the podcast, but every night we had a chat on a Facebook group chat, or it might have been a text thread. Maybe it was a text thread. No, it was a group chat on Facebook. And we'd post our videos of us doing our push-ups. And that's why Ben's seen me in my underwear, because I post videos in my underwear of doing
We didn't need to know that. That part we definitely didn't need to know. We're sorry, audience, if you heard that. And then what happened, Bob? People started falling off from that group. And what happened to the habit?
The habit went away.
Right, because it hadn't been established strong enough as something that now, as you said in the definition at the beginning, it had become almost involuntary to do it. You probably did it for a few days after you did some push-ups, you didn't send them, and then it just started to fade away, and then you reverted back. So we want you to understand, folks, habits don't get made quickly, and we'll cover that shortly. Okay, Bob, so what would have helped you in that situation is the next point here, and that is?
Resolve to persist.
Yeah, have grit, right? Everybody knows the term grit, actually, after the book was written about it, if you didn't know the term before, right? And that's going to be the thing. You're going to have to keep practicing and doing it so that it does become that involuntary action in your life.
You know what's funny as I think back about that, like the push-up thing, it's such a silly little habit or whatever, but I didn't have a why in the beginning. Like, there was no reason for me to be doing this. Ben was like, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, right. Like, he just kind of roped us in, but I didn't really have any motivation for it. And so I think that this resolve to persist or have that grit, I really do think it ties back to, like, why are you doing this, Chad? And if you don't have that why, like, think about, do you get gritty about anything that you, like, don't have a really good why behind?
No, I find every reason not to do it. Because it doesn't impact me. And I'm like, well, it doesn't impact me, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't mean much to you, right? It doesn't have that deep meaning. That's
why I wasn't in the push-up challenge with you guys, right? That wasn't something that I was working on or I needed, so there was no why behind it. So I wasn't like, hey, invite me to this group, let me in.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So that's why we started with the why. If you get nothing out of this episode, folks, you got to have the why. Otherwise, no habit's going to become a habit. Okay, Bob, at the end.
That's my favorite. This is my favorite part of the...
Of course.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of this habit, to help us get there and create it, we have to...
have a pair of brand new Nikes waiting.
Okay. So we have to have
a reward. Sorry, I just thought isn't that everybody's reward?
No. No, not at all. Right? For Bob, it's have a brand new pair of Nike. It's a reward though, right? We need something, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. When we know something is a habit, not just, oh, now I do it. Now I feel better. No, there should literally be a reward waiting.
Should I give myself incremental rewards? Like, do you think like should I?
That depends on you, right? Do you have the grit? Do you have the willpower to say?
That's why I'm asking the question, right? Obviously, Chad.
If you have it, then you give yourself I'm about to go through a 16-week program. So, okay, I'm jumping into a 16-week coaching program. There'll be a reward waiting at 16 weeks and a day. And I'm going to say, I got the grit to push through this. I've got my buddy, my wife, Nita, going through this with me. I got a Facebook group of people who are going through this. I've been telling everybody, I got the grit. But no, there are plenty of people who would say, no, I need a reward when I get to like this marker that says, hey, it's getting a little easier, or I've done it at least for 4 weeks, or, right? Yeah, it's okay to put the little increment rewards in there. But definitely have one waiting.
I'm just trying to figure out. I found this new donut shop by my house.
Not if it's a health habit.
It is. The donuts are so.
How far is it from your house?
Here's the problem. It is in between my son's school.
No. How far approximately is it from your house?
A mile.
Okay.
A mile and a half.
So if your habit is to start running a mile, work up to the habit, and then reward yourself at the end of the first week buy a donut while you're there before you run home.
Listen to you. I take my kid to school every morning and I pass by this donut shop and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to not build a habit of stopping at this donut shop, Dave. You know what I'm saying?
Drive another way. Okay, build that habit.
Pretty sure that's the only way, Chad.
And Bob, that's a great example that you give. How many people listening, I mean, heck, how many of you are driving in the car right now listening to this and you're not even thinking about where you're driving or how you're getting there or anything about the drive? You're hopefully laughing along with us. You're hopefully saying, oh, good point, guys. Yeah, you're hopefully thinking about a habit. Heck, maybe we're just playing in the background and you're yelling at somebody in the car beside you. But you're not thinking about the drive. You don't even remember how you got there when you truly, because it's such a habit.
Yeah.
And how many times
home from work right now? Are you driving from your office to your house?
And you go the wrong way when you move because it's a habit to go that way towards where your old house was. You got to create new habits. All right, so Bob, let's quickly recap the steps.
Wait, about these donuts.
No more on the donuts.
Sorry.
We'll go through these steps quickly one more time. It's know your why. It's start small. It's schedule or have reminders. No exceptions are allowed. If you do, get right back on track. Tell others. Have a buddy go with you. Have grit. And have a reward at the end. Now, Bob, when it comes to habits, probably the single biggest question that everybody says is, how long does it take to create a habit? So, Bob, what's I'm going to say the myth, right? What's the false number that almost everybody would yell right now?
66.
No, that's the right answer, Bob. You're smart.
Oh.
Right? But before everybody started to hear about 66 being it, and I know that you know that.
Okay, so like 21 days,
yes,
right?
Everybody thought 21 days is what it took to create a habit. You want to know where that came from?
Yes.
Okay, it was a doctor. Dr. Maxwell Maltz, back in the 1950s, was a plastic surgeon, okay? And when he would do an operation on people where, they had to have a leg amputated or an arm amputated or a new nose or some plastic surgery, he noticed that they would feel the old body part there still for about 21 days. So he figured it took 21 days for them to kind of create that new habit of, oh, the arm's not there.
Interesting.
Okay, or whatever it might be.
And this story just got passed down over the decades then.
He wrote about it in a book. In 1960, it was published in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, okay, which was a huge hit. 30 million copies. I mean, we all wish we wrote a book that was selling that.
Wow, in the 60s, his book sold 30 million copies?
Yes,
that seems like
before Amazon.
Wow.
Right, books sold before Amazon, folks, just so you know, okay? But that's when the problem started because every self-help guru out there, right? I don't care who you name, but you can name them all. 21 days to form a habit, 21 days to form a habit, 21 days to form a habit, 21 days to form a habit. Bob, the lesson, if enough people say it enough times, everybody starts to believe it's true. I wonder what we could start spreading rumors about. Okay, so now you understand where 21 days came from, but there was no scientific proof at all. Okay, so Bob, you already gave away the answer. How many days does it truly take to create a new habit?
66, but I don't even know, why that is in my head.
Okay, you've heard it because you've probably read things like Atomic Habits, The Power of Habit, The One Thing.
There are lots of, from The One Thing is
there's no topic that's probably written about more than habit creation. And it all comes back to a study that was in the European Journal of Social Psychology, okay, where Philippa Lally and her research team did the work and examined 96 people over 12 weeks. And people chose habits from drinking a bottle of water to running for 15 minutes before dinner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What they found is, Bob, it truly takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days. So some habits will form as fast as 18 days. Some habits are going to take 254.
Doesn't that make sense? Like if you got your arm cut off, I think that'd be a habit that would form pretty darn fast to realize you don't have a hand there anymore. Like that phantom limb syndrome that makes sense to be closer to the 18-day habit creation side.
Sure. Or you have some massive why, like you have the heart attack.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to take you a long time to hopefully change your diet or change your routine, or you have a baby born. You're going to have new habits really quickly.
My wife quit smoking when she got pregnant. Bang.
Boom,
like that habit was new habit formed like immediately overnight.
There you go. Very quickly. It wasn't formed, but it was on its way. Sure. She had the grit to push through.
Yeah.
18 to 254 days is what it takes. What they found is the 66th day is when it becomes as close to automatic. So that's where that 66-day number comes from. It's as easy as it's going to probably be. But hey, you did a push-up challenge for 66 days, and I don't know the last time you dropped and did a push-up.
Yeah, good point, man. But I didn't have a why. I didn't.
That's
it wasn't my thing.
But if you had done it for 254 days,
probably would still
you
be doing
probably
push-ups
still
right
would have turned it into some sort of thing. All right. So, Bob.
Here's the reality. I was getting way too top heavy. My big muscles up top and my skinny little legs. It just looked funny, Chad.
I get it. I get it, Bob. Nobody wants that when it comes to you. All right. So, folks, we just want you to know we have a new series coming. Area of Habits. Bob, don't give them the areas.
Okay.
But how many are there?
6.
All right. So there's 6, which means a 7th episode. Because that's right. There's also the intro to the series episode.
Ooh.
You might miss that one, Bob. We might record that when you're not around. We'll see
I'm
how
going
things.
on vacation again.
Well, of course you are. So, folks, we want you to tell us the habit that you're going to start working on right now. Go into our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/win-make-give, and let us know. We'll post and ask you, what's the habit you are going to work on? Because, boy, you're going to share it with a lot of people.
Because you're going to tell others. It's on the list. It's one of the ways you make it happen.
And, boy, Bob, I'll tell you, one of those scary things for some people is to tell me what the habit is they're going to work on because I believe in accountability, and I will be there for you.
Uh-oh.
All right. So, folks, until our next episode and until the series of Area of Habits begins, remember, do good.